Hello everybody. I want to talk about dyeing your batik. So first off, we have these dyes. You can see them, they're in these trays. They are kind of divided up into, like reds here, orange, green. So we did kind of color code them by painting them. The color or the name of the color is typed, on top of the lid. So I have that container. I also have this container here. So I have my purples, my blues, and the browns are on this side. So look for these containers so you can use them. Just by looking at a dye, this is sky blue, you really can't quite tell what it looks like. So that's why you want to pull out our chart that we made so you understand, kind of what you're getting into in terms of what colors you're looking for. So sky blue, as I look at this, I'm trying to find that right there, sky blue. So it is a really dark blue. If I wanted a lighter one, I could go to turquoise, or probably our lightest one is this robin's egg. But you're also going to notice, looking at these like the turquoise, it actually has two different shades. So maybe I can kind of zoom in on this one. And this is part of your project, is that you're going to do a second coat of wax. So you've already kind of seen that, you create these dams and these shapes, and then you fill it with color, of which I'm going to kind of demonstrate it here in a little bit. And then once that's all dried, you have to wait a day. Once it's all dry, you actually go back in and you create like another shape that's inside of it that's not defined by a white border. But you take the wax and you color in part of the section, and then you get another secondary color. It's part of your grade. So you got to make sure that you do that if you want to get that A- or better in this class. And that you want to just make your project look really good, because just having that two-tone effect takes it up to that next level on that, instead of just having your solid colors. Okay, so that's what that means. So if you really like this watermelon here, for example, there's a lighter red here. There's a really nice red right there. That just takes two coats, because this entire block here was that one color. I took wax, did that top section, so it would create that line, and then I colored it again with the dye, and that's why I get that really nice red. Okay, so sometimes they take, if you want to have that look, with this new emerald green, or even this moss green, you like that darker, it takes two applications of the dye to get to that level. Okay, so we have that chart. We also have a smaller one that at some point we're going to put a frame around it, but right now, here she is. Didn't quite fit on the other one, so we had to make up a smaller one. These are kind of our browns that you can have, and even, and there you go. One thing I want to stress when you do this is typically I have these charts next to a window, because your project, most people end up putting a curtain rod in there, so you can, or some kind of a dowel rod where you can hook it up, and then you can hang it in a window, because you want to lift this up so light is behind here, so you really get a good idea of what the color is going to end up looking like. Okay, so while these browns are kind of dark by looking like here, once you hold them up to the light, the colors really do pop and they look pretty nice. So make sure you do use a window, or even holding up to the light up here, you have a much better idea of what that color looks like. Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to grab a couple colors, because it's not just about that first application or that second one, but also how you can mix colors on your batik as well. And again, that's part of your grade. So obviously, if I have blue right here, I'm going to take daffodil, which is my yellow. And if you look at it, it doesn't look quite yellowish. It looks kind of disgusting, actually. And you definitely need to shake these up. And they are dyes, okay, which means they will stain your clothes. So you got to be kind of careful with it as you work with it. I'm going to grab these two colors, because I know if I take blue and I take yellow together, I'm going to get a green. So I want to kind of play around with that idea as well. Okay. Otherwise, let's go over to the project and I'll show you how to put your dyes on. Now that I have my dyes, I have a few paint brushes from my brush set. I'm going to look at this planet shape right here, and I'm just kind of playing around with colors. Okay, so it's not like I'm going to go necessarily super realistic with this by any means, but just kind of have fun with it. I'm going to open it up to make sure this is shook, whichever tense I'm using incorrectly. Then I'm going to take my brush right there, shows this clean, bring this over, and then I'm going to start putting my dyes down. Now I can definitely have my water cup, So I have my water cup right here. And I'm gonna wanna thin this out a little bit. So it has a couple of different shades of yellows that are in there. Now, one thing you wanna be a little careful about is that if you have way too much water, the water can actually go over top of the dam as well. So like anything, there has to be a balance, between kind of what you're looking for on this. So right now, I'm trying to get this thinned out. So I have different shades of yellow that are on here. Let's switch over to a different brush. I'm not super crazy about that one. This is a little nicer. The reason why I didn't like it is because some of the hair was coming off of the brush. So I'm gonna throw it away. Grab my dye. Now, most dyes, I think I only have one. There's a few that are real popular, like Raven Black. So if you need a color, you might just have to wait till somebody's done with it. Or you can kind of sit next to them and you can share. I'm just going to go in using the water and the dye as kind of a combination. Bring it on this side. And you can already see that when I use it straight out of the bottle, it definitely has this color to it. And as I thin it, it gets lighter. And that might be something you might want to kind of consider as you're playing around with it. These do get empty. So if you do notice that one is empty or about empty, please let me know so I can refill them. It doesn't take long for me to refill them, but it is nice to have everything ready for you to use instead of waiting for me to mix a new color up for you. Okay, so looking at this, one thing I also want to bring up, is your side. And if you notice that in the last demonstration, I talked about making sure that you do wax your entire border. Okay, so your dyes don't go over the top. If you forgot to do that, that is something you definitely want to stop and take care of right away. Let me take that off. I'm gonna open the blue up. I'm gonna rinse my color. And I also have all this extra fabric right here, so I can kind of test my colors on here as well, making sure that I'm okay with what I have. And I think I am, just wanna thin that out. But I'm gonna add a little bit of blue right in here. And while it's still wet, because you can kind of see it starts spreading into there. And I think that'd be a kind of a fun effect. Another really good color that would work well with yellow would be orange, because orange has yellow in it. So it's not such a drastic change, from this blue, which will be blue at the core where I first start laying this down, but as it leaves it, it'll mix into the yellow and it will have a greenish tint to it. Again, be a little careful not to add too much because you don't want to have that dye jumping over that dam. But she does spread out quite a bit, so you might stop, but it'll continue bleeding into that whole area, especially if you have a lot of color with that, okay? Now, I'm gonna stop right there. What I would wanna do is I would continue, I'd be starting to figure out what I wanna have for these colors and deciding what I want. But then tomorrow when this is all dry, I can decide if I wanna do that next step where I wax the area again and I add another color, okay? So I'm gonna kind of keep working on different parts of this, and I wanna go and I will show you the second waxing, which I usually call it, okay? Good luck on the project. Let me know if you have any questions.